You're watching Bloomberg Law. I'm Pacchia. Like it or not, hacking is a fact of life these days. But if you're a law firm, the very idea of having your data, or even worse, that of a client, stolen, is the stuff of nightmares. Joining me now is Mike Riley. He's a reporter for Bloomberg News, and he wrote an article this week on just this very subject. Mike, welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Sure, thank you.
So wanted to get this title of this article out there right away. China-based hackers target law firms to get secret deal data. Scary, scary stuff. What's this all about?
So the article is based on one case in particular. It was a hacking of several law firms in Canada. And it was around a deal between a major Australian mining company, BHP Billiton, and a potash company in Canada, Potash Corp, which just happens to be the biggest potash company in the world. Potash is a main component in fertilizer. It turns out the Chinese were really interested in breaking up this deal, and we know that because they hired a couple of major investment banks to help them do this, and that became public. It was written up in both the Financial Times and the New York Times. The same month that they hired these two investment banks to break up this deal, the law firms handling the deal for BHP and for Potash Corp were hacked. It turns out that after doing some analysis on the attack, that all fingers point back to China, both in terms of the malware that was used and the servers. What they appear to be after was information on the deal, the sort of insider stuff that they could use to take this down. It turns out that this is not a one-time occurrence. There's a company here in Virginia called Mandiant that specializes in industrial espionage. They estimate that 80 major U.S. law firms were hacked last year. And what they're after often is very confidential stuff, the secrets that that they keep for their clients, often big corporations. And you're right, this is a major challenge for the law profession. After all, confidentiality of your client's information is a basic principle on which the whole thing is built. And if law firms are seen as the kind of weak link in the chain, a backdoor that hackers can get at these secrets of their clients, that's a big problem.
Now, in researching this article, did you get the impression that law firms are vulnerable for some innate reason, or is the legal profession just an industry that failed to prepare for an emerging difficulty in doing business in the modern world?
You know, it's a couple of things. They're targets in part because they have a lot of very confidential information. If you think about it, a law firm has to know everything about their clients. In fact, including some of the worst secrets, because they have to be able to prepare their clients for that. So by their very nature, the information that they have is often very sensitive. It's also true that law firms don't tend to have really great security. I mean, they can. And in fact, some firms have been contacting security firms to beef up their computer security. But as the FBI told me, law firms are not used to dealing with this kind of stuff. Partners often want all sorts of privileges that make security harder, make it harder for their networks to get nailed down, including they want administrator rights. They want to be able to transfer documents to and from mobile phones, from computers when they're on the road, when they're someplace for the weekend to read them. You know, the documents that are going back and forth in those emails are very, very sensitive documents. And if the partner doesn't want to deal with really long passwords or heavy security burdens, that's a problem.
This sounds inordinately expensive, taking all the precautions to prevent against having hackers access into law firms' data. Any sense that that these precautions are going to meaningfully impact bottom line for law firms?
So if law firms really wanted to make their networks bulletproof, it would get very expensive very quickly. We called a lot of law firms, tried to get them to talk to us about this. It's a very sensitive subject. Nobody really wanted to mention it. But it is true that having state-of-the-art security is a costly proposition. But it's also a question that they have to weigh against the cost of not doing it. Potential liability they could incur, for example, from losing very confidential information that belongs to clients that may affect litigation, is potentially huge.
Any sense that these firms have a handle on the potential liability stemming from these issues? Are you finding that they're thinking about this for the very first time, say this month, or is this something that they've seen coming?
I think they're beginning to think about it more and more. I mean, some firms are much more savvy about this than others. Big international firms that deal with intellectual property rights, all sorts of things, I think, are having to think about this. The question is how quickly they're moving and what they're doing about it. And I don't get the sense that they're moving particularly quickly. Neither did the FBI. They held a meeting last November with the top 200 firms in New York City, basically to tell them, look, you guys are a target. You need to start thinking about your security. And they were doing that because they just didn't think the law firms were thinking about it.
Oh, this is tough stuff, and it's certainly hitting the legal profession at a time where they have a lot of other concerns to be worried about. Mike, I want to thank you so much for your time today. This was really interesting.
You're very welcome.
That's Mike Riley. He's a reporter here at Bloomberg News. If you'd like to learn more about the cases and issues we just discussed, be sure to check out our offerings on BloombergLaw.com and also Bloomberg.com. I'm Lee Pacchia. Thanks for watching.